Hello, everybody. I'm Toby Gennaro, and just taking a look here. We've got a decent-sized crowd on today, so let's do the sound check real quick, as we normally do. Make sure we get that out of the way, and you guys can hear and see everything. The splash screen says live technical analysis. If you guys can see that, you can hear my voice loud and clear. Just give me an electronic high five over the question box on your screen, and that'll get us going. Once we get that done, we'll do a formal introduction for recording purposes, and then we'll jump right into the content. Great, guys. Thanks for doing that. Looks like we're all good technology-wise. Let me just do a little introduction here, and then we'll jump right into the slides, and then directly into the trading and analysis that you guys are here to see. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Toby Gennaro, and I'll be your presenter for today. The topic for today is live trading with Nadex contracts. So I'm going to be talking through a series of specific trade setups in real time that I'm seeing in the markets based on the charts and our trade strategies that we use. And I'll kind of walk you through how I'm doing that. For those of you that are on the live webinar, if you have questions during the session, you can type those into the question box on your screen. And I'll be asking you guys some questions as well. We'll try to keep this very interactive, which I think makes it more interesting as well. And let me just put up this risk warning and disclaimer. Got to do this as part of the business. I'll leave this up for about 30 seconds or so. If you guys could just have a quick read through this, that would be good. What this is saying in brief is that we provide education only, which means we do not give any financial advice. And as most of you know, trading the markets can be risky. It's not suitable for everyone, and you should seek independent professional advice. All right, everybody good with that? And then just one more disclaimer here directly from Nadex. If you can just have a quick read through this one, it's a short one, and that'll wrap up the disclaimers for today's session. All right, so if you're all good with that, let's jump in and get started here. So to kickstart your trading each Tuesday morning, you can utilize this regular feature from the trading team at Trade with Precision. And you know, with so much going on in the markets each and every week, the big question is, how can we spot opportunities across multiple markets and multiple time frames that we're trading? So you can join us weekly for this insightful live webinar, where we will focus on technical and trend analysis across some of the major markets and currencies to help answer this question, give you a little bit more artillery in your trading arsenal. So let's go ahead, jump into some live charts here and see what trading opportunities we can find for today. Now, what I did was before we logged in today, I took a look at a few charts that I thought would be good to consider for potential trading opportunities today in advance. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of those markets. We'll be looking at the S&P 500, and then we'll look at the charts on the dollar CAD, one foreign currency, and that should cover the 30 minutes for us. We'll walk you through all the time frames and everything that I'm looking at in the charts. So give me a minute here just to get my everything set up so you guys can see everything. We've got, let's see, let's get the Nadex charts here. There we go. And so we've got the Nadex contracts coming up. Maybe a look at the dailies. All right, so there we've got the charts set up, so you guys should be able to see anything and everything that I have on my screen at this point. I'll just double check that with my audience view here. Okay, that looks good. All right, so the first thing I wanted to look at was the S&P 500. It's been making some some moves to the top side, to the upside, and I wanted to kind of review that. I know I looked at it. I think the last time I did this Tuesday webinar, which was a couple of weeks ago, and it finally did make its move that I was talking about back then. It was kind of setting up a flat level that you can sort of see right here for the last, 4 weeks. We're in the 5th week of this move. We finally kind of inched past and broken out of that level right there, which has been right around, that 2740 level, let's say. Pretty close, but we did get a nice, one thing I'm looking at is we did get a nice rejection candle right there. Well, I mean, not a rejection of the lows, not a rejection of the highs. And so we've got all the moving averages fanning up to the top side. We have a nice rejection bullish candle looking higher. We got a break of the high right there. And here on the monthly chart, we've got a nice indecisive candle right there. We're right in and around that buy zone. Got a nice bullish candle there, break of the high again. So we have a lot of good things that we're looking at here on the monthly and the weekly chart as far as, you know, what the markets might be doing. Now, the last time we were back up to this level at, you know, 28.85, let's say, was quite a ways ago. It was back, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost 6 months ago. So it's been a ways. We've been kind of jostling in a sideways market right here. This could certainly continue, but I think probably the upper and the lower realm of that might be somewhere around the, you know, 2550 mark, maybe, yeah, somewhere around the 2550 mark to maybe the 2800 mark, or possibly the 2880 mark. I'm thinking it might possibly be the 2800 mark, and we might be oscillating between here for the time being. I don't really see the market from here taking off and striding up to make new highs. That could happen. I'm just not that bullish on the markets at this point. So I'm just looking for some decent opportunities on where the market may lead to. I think we definitely have a potential run up to this 2800 level from the current level that we're at. So I think that's fairly realistic in the short term. Here we've got all the MACD and the RSI, the indicators moving pretty smoothly. Obviously, if we did make a move back up to that 2885 marker, we'd see some pretty serious bearish divergence on the indicators, especially if we were to put in a new high. So that would be a fairly large technical indicator that would signal that the trend is weakening and has the potential to reverse on such a high time frame like a monthly and a weekly. Now here, we're looking at this breakout, and let me just get a level indicator in right there. Add some color to that so you guys can see it. So there we are. You can see the two touches there have been fairly precise right around that level at 2742. Now we got a break up through there just yesterday, since this is a daily chart. And then here we've still got to watch out, even though we broke up through, we still want to watch out to see that we don't break up higher and then completely reject that level with a large rejection candle for today. So this candle right here is going to be pretty important for me for today, for looking to see if we're actually going to reject that level or if the market's going to continue the buying and we're going to get a little bit of a green candle there. If we do, I would sense that we're going to start getting some inching movement, you know, toward the upside here and continuing this uptrend. So I think we're really kind of in almost no man's land right here. We did have a breakthrough, but I still want to see that that breakthrough is going to hold. If we get a sell-off going into the close today and a nice bearish candle right here, that's going to be pretty indicative of, you know, probably another pullback with the low, the swing low being that 2675 level. We could be oscillating in here for quite some time, and the market may put in another touch at this level and maybe another touch before it finally breaks, if that's what's going to happen. But being that we have some important stuff coming up, we've got the North Korean meeting coming up, some different geopolitical events upcoming in the next couple of weeks. I'd be very cautious about some of these levels right here based on what I'm seeing. If we have a great outcome out of the North Korea meeting, the markets may surge higher. If that meeting fails, then we might see the markets turn lower. So those are some things that you know, to be aware of that potentially could happen. But for right now, we've broken through that level. It really just remains to be seen if we're going to continue that trend. And I'd really be looking at the daily chart to tell me that. The monthly and the weekly both look good from my point of view. And then going down to the 8-hour chart, we can see that level where we had two touches. What we don't have here is a nice swing low and then a higher low and then a higher low going into that touch. We actually put in a new swing low and broke below the two prior lows, which is always a concern. It's not the optimal setup for a flat level breakout. But nonetheless, these kinds of things can happen. So that's why I'm looking for some other indicators here that are going to tell me, some other candles on the daily chart, the higher time frames are going to help illuminate me on, what potentially is happening here. But right here, we've got all the moving averages in alignment on the 8-hour chart. Looks good. We don't have too much overextension from moving averages, so that's okay as well. We do have a little bit of slight bearish divergence here. The second leg of that divergence, the first leg was right about here, but now we actually have a higher high and we have some significant lower highs. So that says something, but on the daily chart, everything is converging very nicely, and the same thing on the weekly and the monthly. So I'm going to look to the 3 higher time frames for my actual guide. Then moving down to the 240 and the 120, things actually look pretty good. I mean, we've got a little bit of bearish divergence right here compared to this most recent high back here. But as we move through, we've had some lower bumps here, but we don't really have higher highs in the price action. So I'm just going to ignore some of those signals. Here, again, we've got this pullback off of here. We had a little bit of bearish divergence with that most recent high. So I think we might just be getting a little bit of a technical pullback right here. The same thing on the 60-minute and the 30-minute charts. And so we have this level right around here at 2740 that we've been kind of flirting with. We end up breaking that. We could move from 2740 probably down about 10 points down to this level right in around 2730, which would be a significant pullback. Another thing that I would line up here would be a Fibonacci retracement right here, which aligns pretty well with that 2725 level or some of that previous resistance. So if we did break this level right here on a pullback, more than likely we might pull all the way back into this 2730 level, get in touch with that 50% retracement, and then potentially move back up to that 2750 level for a potential break to the upside. So that's just kind of a guess on my part right now, kind of an educated guess. But right now, my thought is we're going to get some buying here, and we're going to end up the day probably back up where we started. And that's probably my best guess just by looking at the charts right now. I think this pullback right here is just a little bit of a technical pullback that we're seeing. If we go down to the lower time frames, you can see how that works. This high right here is overextended. Lower highs here on the indicators means a technical pullback. All that has washed out, and so we may end up starting a trend back up to the upside to continue that. But again, I'm looking for that daily candle to give me my ultimate sense of what's going to happen on today. If we get a nice little bullish candle here, then I think that gives me some confidence that we're going to be making that move back up to 2800. If not, it's a rejection candle, then I think there might be some more sideways action here. So a couple things there to think about. I'm not always looking for setups that we can trade on these sessions on Tuesday because we just don't have a whole lot of time to look through the charts. But I do want to give you guys some future look at what I'm thinking about from a higher time frame, and a lot of the higher time frames here, like the weekly and the monthly, look fairly good for a move up to 2800 to say the least. But again, long term, I'm not necessarily bullish on the equities market since we're in about the 9th year of a bull run. Interest rates are rising. There's a lot of things going on. There are a lot of predictions about a top in the markets, and usually predictions of tops in the markets and recessions are usually pretty good. We're not able to predict the good times, but we can usually predict the bad times because people simply just stop putting their money into the markets because they think the markets have made too long of a run up, and so that's usually something that human beings are usually pretty good at predicting, and so everybody stops putting money in, and then all we're left with are the sellers, and then equity markets start to tank. And then people start to put money into interest-bearing assets and gold and other things like that as a hedge. And that's where we get major pullbacks in the market. That's really kind of what I'm thinking about here for the next, half of 2018 is some type of a major pullback in the market. But in the meantime, I'll be looking for any way to trade the trend to the upside. I'm not going to be looking for any type of a short. But if we did get a major pullback in the markets, I would be looking for a way to get long any of those larger pullbacks. and that'd be in the range of like a 30 to 40% type of type of retracement. So let's go ahead. Let's take a look at some of the Nadex contracts. I wouldn't look at anything less. I've got the dailies up here. More than likely, I'd be looking at a weekly since they still have a couple of 3 days left. Let me get that out of the way there. So 3 days, once we get the close of that candle on the daily chart, that'll give us a pretty good idea of what the markets might be trending up into the end of the week. That'd be a very positive signal for the weekly chart. That means we get a nice bullish candle, another bullish candle on the weekly chart, which would be very good. So right now we're currently right around that 2750 range, which means these are trading right around 48, 47 to the long side. 2761 would also be a decent one if we are making a move to the upside and we do get that bullish candle on the daily chart by the end of today and the close. Then chances are we're only, about 12 points away from 2761, and that would represent by Friday, even if the market never got really beyond 2761, that would be at least worth 50 at this point. Wouldn't give us a 1-to-1, but it'd be pretty close. And then this one right here would certainly be in the money if we can just hold it above and beyond that 2750 level. And then anything really below that, 67, I'm not really interested because we just don't have a 1-to-1 reward to risk ratio. Something a little bit more risky would be the one out here at 15, but the market would have to take a pretty decent size run up to 2773. Not impossible for a 20-25 point run in 3 days. I mean, the market can make that kind of a transition literally in one session of trading. So I think you really have almost 3 options there for a potential trade, depending upon how that daily candle closes out for today. Other than that, those are the longest contracts we have to trade. We'd have to look at next week in order to see if there's anything else. But that could be, if the market gets cranking along, that could be a multi-week opportunity to look for some different opportunities. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next market, which is the dollar CAD. And so I've been looking through, kind of looked through all of these, and I saw some buying, a pretty consistent buying in the US dollar. And so I wanted to explore that a little bit with you and take a look at that. I've been looking at this, chart right here, even though we have, a lower low and a lower high on the monthly chart. Again, I see, some consistent buying here with another higher high beyond this high here, a higher low over the last, 8-9 months. And then here we are, we're making a move, that big rejection candle right there, and we're making a move back up to that 62% retracement to see if we can break beyond that level and get higher. But I want to also be conscious of this little trend line that's happening here, and I want to make sure that at the end of the month, what that candle looks like agrees with any type of long bias I might have. But looking here at the weekly chart, we can see that things have been moving up pretty steadily. We've got higher highs, higher lows. We've got a couple of higher lows in right here. Looks like we're trending back up. Some nice long tails on these candles, which means we've had sell-offs, but buyers have stepped in and, being very bullish, have bought each one of those candles up significantly. And we're really looking to top and best this level of around 131 to see if we can do that. And I think there's probably good reason that might happen. A lot of good looking indicator action here on the weekly chart. And then moving down to the daily, we can see everything is really kind of lined up very nicely in terms of the moving averages. The 200, the 50, the 20, and the 10 all look very good. Here on the 8-hour, I'd like to see the close out of this candle. It obviously doesn't look very good here. We've got a lot of bearish divergence here with that most recent higher high and a lot of overextension. So we'll have to see, how that works out at the close of today's session and what that looks like. But overall, on the the daily and the weekly, things look pretty positive for a move higher, at least up to potentially to break that 130 level. And then going down to the 4-hour and the 2-hour, again, these candles right here, we'll have to see. This one already closed out a very bearish rejection candle, but we don't really have as much divergence from this high to this high. We do have some right here, but we've actually broken up with this high to a newer high beyond this. We almost have convergence from this high to the next high. And if we end up getting, another move back up to that high and a nice bullish candle, more than likely that would indicate that the markets are looking to continue higher. Going down to some of these other ones like the 60-minute, basically pull back into the moving average zone, little indecisive candle there setting up, some nice bullish candles there setting up. So that all looks fine. I don't see a lot of reasons for this market not to move higher. In looking at some of these other candles, I would again like to see this daily candle close out bullish today to see how that might work. But we've had, a nice consolidation here, and things are looking pretty good on the indicators as well for another move higher. And then again, I like the weekly. We don't have the 50 period moving average, but it's just barely sneaking in. And then if we do get a continued move in the market higher, you'll see the 200, the 50, the 20, and the 10 all in alignment, fanning to the upside. And so if you go through and you look at, some of the others like the Euro USD, just gives me an idea of how the dollar, the greenback, is performing against all these other foreign currencies. That's always important. Here we had a pullback off of that 62% level, and all I did was put in another Fibonacci retracement from the most recent swing low to the most recent swing high. A lot of times you'll have a sell-off from that 62% level, and it'll sell off back into like a 50% level, which almost had a touch right there, and buyers stepped in, but didn't quite get down to that 114 level. So there's also some previous levels of resistance right there that will turn into support right around that level. Looks like they already did. So what I'd like to see is probably a little bit more of a bullish candle right there. We have a nice bullish rejection candle at that level right here, and we're getting a nice bullish candle setting up right here. I'd like to see a closeout of a bullish candle there by the end of the week. Do have a little bit of bearish divergence right there, but again, we have, a lot of selling of the euro and buying of dollars, so very significant. Not sure that that's going to change anytime soon. And then looking at the pound dollar, I think we really have kind of a lot more of the same thing. And so I think there's an opportunity there for the dollar CAD, at least in the next week or two, to potentially move higher. And if we start to see some of these charts starting to move higher, then that means a lot of the largest currencies and the traders of those currencies are buying the euro and the pound, and they're selling the dollar. And that might be a clue for maybe the short-lived longevity of the dollar CAD. But for right now, the dollar CAD probably looks the best in the near term. But I would be certainly looking and paying attention to some of these other currencies in terms of what they're doing. One other thing I'll probably take a look at is we'll take a look at gold as well, since we're looking at the S&P equities here today, give you guys a little bit more bang for the buck. As we've talked about before, gold goes up when the equities market goes down. So it's kind of that safe haven, if you will. When people take their money out of equities and the equity markets are rolling over, where do they put it? They put it into interest-bearing assets, fixed income. They put it into things like gold. And so as the markets continue to rise on the S&P, potentially breaking that level that we were looking at earlier in today's session, you can see that gold has been trending to the downside. And even looking at the daily chart, you can see the trend that has started with the most recent uptrend on the S&P 500. So if the S&P 500 continues to the upside, you'll see gold potentially continue to the downside. So that's kind of the kind of the way that works, and that's kind of how we're looking at things. So overall, that's going to be the look at the markets. Let me go back and cover just a couple of more things here on the slides, and make sure that we're all covering that, and give you guys a little bit of a wrap up here. Just give me 1 second to get my screen set up here. All right, so what Nadex is doing with these Tuesday sessions is they're really making an investment in your success as an investor, and that's why they sponsor these events such as today. Show you guys a little bit of technical analysis in different ways that we can that we trade the markets. So you can find a lot of this stuff on the YouTube channel. Make sure you go to YouTube and subscribe to the Nadex channel. A lot of other great opportunities there to learn about the trade setups that I'm using and all the types of technical analysis. I'm basically using 2 trade strategies to do this. And by hitting the Nadex YouTube channel, you can find out all about that. A couple of different ways for you guys to get in touch with us here: phone and email listed here for any questions that you might have. Or you can ask me your questions right now, just as you've been doing. Just use the question box on your screen. Demo accounts also available to provide you some familiarity with the contracts that we've been talking about today. For current members, if you'd like to begin trading again, just log in to nadex.com. Take advantage of the advanced education webinars that are available. It will help take your trading to the next level. If you're new to Nadex and you'd like to set up an account, then just go to, again, nadex.com. Click on, I believe it's the orange box in the top right, says sign up. Fill in your details. Someone from Nadex will respond via email to get you started. Before you sign off, there is a short survey upon your exit. Please let us know your thoughts. And I'd like to thank you all for joining us. Let me just respond to one question here. Jason's asking, can you zoom in on the charts? Sorry about that, Jason. I didn't caught this a little bit late. That was actually, those were about the largest I can get the charts on my screens. So there really wasn't any way for me to enlarge them anymore. Robert's got a question. I'm new. Where do I find those charts you're using? Those are actually from my own charting packages. One of the things that you can do to get the charts, and you can get them free of charge, Robert, is to utilize the Nadex charts on the Nadex platform. And that's really, they actually done a lot of stuff on those charts, which makes them very nice to use. They put the binary Nadex binary ladders that that just lay right on top of the chart information that you're looking at, so it makes it really easy to identify where you're at relative to the Nadex contract. So if you don't have another charting package, no worries. Just utilize the one that's in the Nadex platform, and you'll be good to go. Are there any other questions that I can respond to before we wrap up for today? Anything else? Going once, going twice? Question from Dylan, how do I get more demo funds? Good question. Yeah, you may just want to put a call into the 800 number. I think they can help you with that, and they'll just plug in a new number for you. Ryan's asking, what's the best way to utilize a neutral bear or neutral bull spread trade in Nadex? It's really just the the opposite of what we're doing. I'm looking for a trend in the like in today's, I'm looking for trends in the price action. So you can utilize those trends to find out how you might be able to, for example, sell a contract and then use that to your advantage to expose any of the loss of what am I trying to say here? The loss of intrinsic value, or a way that you can do things like straddles, just like you would with a regular option. You can trade news and things like that by having a non-directional type of trade. So you can do that with 2 binaries. You can do that with a Nadex spread at the same price. You have one going long, one going short. It's a little beyond the scope of what we're doing on the Tuesday sessions. We're really just trying to give you some directional focus to help you with that. So before you get into things that are a lot more complex, try to get yourself successful with some of the directional stuff that we're talking through. Okay. All right. Well, it looks like that wraps up the question for us. The questions for